everybody. How's it going? Let's jump right in. P-Dub, Creed, Kiwi. How's it going? We've got the big Gunga wheel for the remaining beats from last stream. And we'll just have a nice, lovely hangout as usual as well. Hopefully you guys are having a good Monday. I'm getting over a little bit of another sickness. This is the 5th time I've gotten sick this year. Before this, I got sick like once in the past 2 years or something. Now I'm just becoming a delicate, frail little boy. Sherb is here as well. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. After starting 0-2 in my fantasy team, I'm now a 5-2. Crushing it. You know, people didn't believe in me, but now I'm coming back with the vengeance. What'd you guys get up to over the weekend? Bro, up your vaccine game? Yeah, I think my girl even suggested that, but I also want to try just making sure I'm getting the correct vitamins and hopefully preventing it from that way as opposed to having to get a shot every year. So yeah, I've been looking into like zincs and various NACs and various other acronyms. Hopefully those things help as well. And yeah, that was my weekend watching football while sick. Anyways, let's just go ahead and spin. And you guys can let me know what you guys got up to over the weekend. And we'll also listen to Sherb's beat. The young Sherb gets, I don't know if this is considered lucky since this is part 2 of the stream, but he gets selected right away. So we're continuing on with the just sample whatever you want series. And yeah, let's just go ahead and jump in. I'll give it a little bit of a smooth fade out here since we have like another minute and a half of the beat. But I'm assuming it just repeats here. Let's see what you guys are saying. Kids activities all weekend. Emergency is the GOAT. That is a delicious beverage as well. One of my fantasy teams scored 150 so far. Fantasy has sucked for me, losing both leagues badly. Oofa. 3-3 in both leagues. Let me know who has been your most valuable pick and the biggest bust on your team. For me, the best value I've gotten was probably Jordan Mason. I drafted him in like the 10th round. Biggest bust, Mark Andrews, that loser. I drafted him in the 4th round. He's done nothing. Fun fact, I actually flipped a sample from an actual album for this one. I didn't use any sample packs. Oh, I had no idea that you usually use sample packs. I thought you sampled from actual like songs and albums. Interesting. Creed says, damn sure you insane. Stellar drums. And use Note Grabber to make the bass line. Excellent. Yeah, my feeling with this beat, great drum work as usual. Everything sounds super detailed. Your drums are like never an issue in any of your beats, it sounds like. Love the instrumentation as well. You built great patterns. They have a great balance. Nothing felt too overly complex or sort of overly simple. I felt as though the different patterns that you built had a good arrangement of, complexity. The things that jumped out to me in terms of small little things that you can think about. In terms of the instrumentation, my feeling is that the low mids are usually, whatever you use for the low mids, whatever instrument that may be, I would say it's best to kind of keep those sounds closer positioned towards the middle. So I almost think of stereo presence as like this sort of reverse funnel where, you've probably heard people often say that your bass line should be very, very mono and in the middle. And then from out of that, I almost think of like the low mids as the next layer up, which can have a tiny bit of panning by any means. I'm not saying you shouldn't ever do that, but it is usually something that you want to keep closer towards the middle. And then as you go higher in frequency, I think those types of instruments are the ones that you can get away with in terms of like more extreme panning. With this beat that you built, it feels as though pretty much all the instrumentation has some pretty extreme panning going on. So if I'll bring the volume up, so you can hear the vibraphone. It's pretty hard pan to the right, and that seems to be the sound that is sitting in that low mid space. So I think just pushing that closer towards the middle, and if you have other sounds that you want to push outwards, like I did notice that those vibraphones do go into like a higher register in terms of the notes, so even keeping those a little bit more wide would be a good idea. But just in terms of the low mid frequency instrumentation, I would have probably put that closer towards the middle. And another thing, like you guys pointed out, that sort of horn that came in, just a little bit off beat. I think just nudging it earlier would probably do the trick. Or maybe it is tiny bit later. I think either one. It seems to be sitting in between like a 8th beat or something. But yeah, other than that, like that's the only two small things that jumped out to me. Travis Etienne is my boogeyman. My friend drafted Etienne and Pacheco at the back end of, he had the 12th pick and he took Etienne, Pacheco, and he is in last place currently. So yeah, those are my takeaways with this beat. Again, really great work with the sample as well. Piecing together an idea that feels cohesive. It didn't feel as though you were doing that thing of triggering multiple samples, creating too many chops. Everything felt cohesive. The patterns that you built around them, both musically and the rhythmic elements in terms of your drums, on point. I think just a small repositioning of that one sound is probably what I would have done. And that's what jumped out to me. Small detail, but something I wanted to point out. And I just realized I have not given you guys the next exercise. So I'm going to do that right after this stream. Apologies on that. Slipped my mind. I've just been extremely busy with this plugin. It has been going well. I'm very happy with the reception of the... Ooh! How people have been really enjoying it, seemingly. And the people are very excited for 2.0, which I've already begun talking to my developer over. So I'm going to let you guys know exactly what that will look like when it comes out. Or closer. I'll probably be giving you guys updates as it goes on. Just showed up to the stream. Thank you for popping by, Graham. Oh. Please exercise needs brain muscles. For sure. I'll get that to you guys. Apologies again. Barkley has been my best. Barkley's been tearing it up. Everyone else has not. Nifty intro with that flute thing, a groovy sample and bass. I like that West Coast style synth line that comes in. I think it's a lead actually. I think the low end of the sample needs to be cleaned up a bit. P-Dub says nice cohesive beat. All the sounds have a place, great depth and width. Yeah, I like the patterns that were built with this beat in terms of the actual sounds that were added in. I enjoyed the bass line. A lot of great work done to make this bouncy bass line. Also did enjoy that synth that Graham used. Really cool sound there. And I think the pattern of that organ that's sitting in the lower mid section, very simple, so I think that was a good idea in terms of making sure the beat doesn't feel overly full. I think my takeaway with this beat though is I don't know if I feel as though that main POI is strong enough. So like I said, we have a good bass line here. We have this sort of organ that is providing some like good secondary foundation, and you have all these pieces put into place for like this really interesting idea to sit upon. But I just feel as though with the actual sound that was used, it's a very muffled sound. It doesn't have that much character to it. It sounds like there's like a lot of filtering or EQ. Maybe it does already that's already how it sounded within the sample. But also with the way that the sample is used, it's almost playing the exact same notes over and over again. That sort of idea that I talk about of just playing the same chops over and over just because, it's it's a hard idea to put together a full cohesive sort of melodic loop. And so something that I see producers often doing is just playing and repeating the same chops over and over again. And as you can hear, it just doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. It doesn't feel like it does anything interesting for the most part. So we have this sound that doesn't really feel like it's standing out. And in terms of the pattern that was built, it wasn't really doing anything that sort of captivated me, at least. And so I feel like all the pieces surrounding this sample and all the work that was done around it, really great decision making, really on point. Like I mentioned, that sort of small synth that comes in, I feel like that was such a really cool, unique idea. And if that was built as the cornerstone and then you figure out how to get this sample to be a little bit more of a secondary idea, maybe that would have been the better approach. But I just feel like with the way that the sample was used, the sample itself, it just didn't feel like it had enough character to sort of make an entire beat out of. Graham says, yes, I had to EQ the sample to clean it up best that I could, but it still sounded muddy. Yeah, I think at that point, if you find yourself having to be excessively cleaning up a sample to remove other instruments, then you end up really botching the actual sound that you want and you're primarily interested in. Just don't use the sample. Like, this is something that I mentioned that I goofed up on a lot when I would listen to samples. I would hear this really cool instrument, this really cool sound within the sample. It was like dug really deep away. And so I would try to do all this excessive like EQing and, you know, all these tricks. And then by the time I was done with it, I just was left with this really thin, meek sounding sort of sample idea. And the beat would never feel full because I just ended up cutting so much away just for this one sound, which never felt as though it sort of came across the way I wanted it to. And so, yeah, my recommendation is to just think about, I talked about this in the video that I put out 2 weeks ago, the sort of 3 levels of sampling. If you find a sample with a little sound that you like, maybe find another part of the actual sample itself where that sound feels more prominent and it's a little bit more isolated, just to give you a little bit more control. But if you can't find that, unfortunately, I would designate that as a bad sample. And you're just sort of fighting an uphill battle trying to turn this idea into a beat, because it's just not probably going to work out. So yeah, that is my take on that. Creed says it does switch up every now and then. Yeah, for sure. It does have like a different pattern towards the tail end, but the exact similar technique is used where just a very short repetitive phrase playing over and over again. It's like a quarter bar loop, essentially. So yeah, once again, it's, even though different chops are being used here, that same fundamental problem still occurs where even though that idea there does sound a little bit more interesting, I feel as though the sound itself is still probably something that is undermining the beat, regardless of how little additional complexity there was during the second half of the beat. Auto is next. P-Dub almost getting selected, but the Automeister takes the lead.
Hello? Hello? Somebody in there?
Yeah. Check it out. Listen to this.
Check this shit out. What do we have here?
right, that was the Automan's beat. Very West Coast. A very awesome beat. That low end sounds really nice. Killer beat, says P-Dub. Funky guitar riff too, fits very well, smooth and delicate. Silver, how's it going? Yeah, this was, as usual, another killer beat here by the Automeister. Yeah, don't really have much to say in terms of like being critical of this beat. Phenomenal drum work, such great sample work. I really, really love the way that space is filled in this beat. Such unique textures, like that interesting sound on the right side.
Hello, somebody in there?
Yeah, like that really abrasive sample that sort of gets cut off really, really fast. Down there. Just such like, these small little details just to fill up space in such a unique way. It just goes such a long way, and I feel like this is like a constant reminder I need to give myself as well. I think the way that Sam puts together these beats, it really lends itself to it, this sort of West Coast approach of depending on a number of smaller textures and sounds to fill up the beat, and I think this is phenomenal work and decision making to get the beat to sound full. Like I mentioned, I don't really have anything negative to say. I think maybe if there's one thing, I would probably give the same, somewhat similar advice as I did to Sherb about that sound that's in the low mid. So as you can hear with that sort of main idea, the sort of main conceit of this verse is that piano, a single note playing over and over again. I think just maybe bringing in that really cool, unique sound that is filling up that low mid, as well as that more traditional piano on the left side, and just bring them a tiny bit closer into the center. Like I mentioned with Sherb's beat, I often feel as though it should work as like a reverse funnel in terms of your stereo. So low end in the middle, and then the low mid, while it can be a little bit more panned, keeping it a little bit more in the middle as well could be a good idea. I especially find that's a thing whenever I wear my headphones, where it feels as though like sounds can be jumping left and right because of this issue. Small little detail once again, but by no means did I feel it was like a bad thing. And I think part of the reason why is because they did have a good balance. At least it wasn't as if the entirety of that low mid was on one side or another. He did have a good balance in terms of having that really cool sort of abrasive sample on the right, and then that traditional piano on the left. So there was at least some balance that did work out, but just bring them a tiny bit closer towards the middle, I think, might have helped the beat become more usable. But again, is that Sam's wish with the beat? I don't know. Overall, though, such phenomenal work here. Just always impressed with these beats. Yeah, I would love to hear like an actual rapper on that. That would be an awesome track or idea. I would be confident. Next up is it P-Dub? Ooh. P-Dub's being betrayed by the wheel today. First up is Arlo. Here we go. Arlo's beat there. What's more? Really cool beat idea there. Great bounce, says Silver. Great sample and sound selection. Might be missing something in the low mid, says Graham. Taking the vocal sample. And Silver says need something above that sub. P-Dub says couldn't be sure that my earbuds are deceiving me, but it sounds like some sounds are competing for the same space, says P-Dub. So yeah, my takeaway is very similar to what you guys are saying. I really love the amount of bounce and the drum work in this beat. Really cool pairing of that idea with the sample. Great usage of the sample as well. We didn't have the exact same thing play over and over again. There were different pieces that were used throughout the beat, and we sort of got this change happening where it did feel as though the energy levels did change as well. Silver says maybe a bit more spatial effects like reverb on the vocals to push them back for the main vocal to sit better. Yeah, me and Silver are on the same page here. The so yeah, sample great. Sample usage was great. I did agree in that it did feel as though there was a little bit thinness to the sample. So one idea that Arlo can think about, something that I do very often, is that whenever I have these samples that sit higher up, just literally putting something like halftime on them and then putting the mix of halftime to like 40%, 50%, until you get this good mix of low mid that automatically gets introduced into the beat, and then you keep that high frequency pocket of the original sample. And from there, you could even like control different spaces frequency-wise in terms of the stereo space as well. So you could even keep that first layer, that sort of halftime layer, more in the middle, and then you can do some extreme panning, for example, or widening, I should say, with the higher part of the sample. So that's an idea that you can think about. And I will agree that the vocals in the beat, while they do work in terms of the note usage, they do sound great. I do feel as though there's a little bit of a worry that they are very dry. And so just like Silver pointed out, I would not be surprised if, our artists tried to use this, they would find themselves competing with that vocal. So maybe just doing a little bit of EQing on it and reducing where it sits, or playing around with the depth of it and reducing its presence overall in the beat in terms of where it sits. I think those are the two main things that jumped out to me. But I really love this beat idea as well. Like, I'm a sucker for these orchestral beats. Yeah, I think that that halftime idea would work very well on that beat. It'd really go a long way in filling up a lot of space in a nice, natural, balanced way. All right, muchachos, who's next? Is it P-Dub finally? Oh my God. I'm sorry, P-Dub. This wheel, I'll tell ya. Someone needs to grease the wheel. You've been stopped short multiple times now. All right. Let's see what Kev's got for us. Oh, track was not found, unfortunately. I think Kev was in here before. Maybe Kev's gone. But Kev, if you're in here, please drop a link. Oh, look at that. P-Dub gets selected after Kevin gets betrayed by his own beat. P-Dub storms back onto the scene. Here we go. Deb's beat there. It sounds like there's two beat ideas competing with one another here, says Sherb. I'll be straight up, I do not like this. My head hurts. The timing of everything seems off. The high-end synth seems too harsh, says Creed. The synth line is too bright and has a different pattern timing on the bass line. Yeah, I feel like this was a swing and a miss here. It's hard for me to even understand what was happening with this beat. First, I would say that this beat is sort of lacking the fundamental structures of a beat, in that there seemingly was not a kick in this beat at all. Like that kick has zero punch to it. I don't know if there's like a filter put on it, but there's no sort of thump to it at all. And I think the bass as well, somewhat lacking as well. So I don't know what happened to the low end of this beat, but it feels as though that space is completely dead. And so we have this huge shift over to the remaining sounds, which also feel as though there's a problem with it, just like you guys pointed out. That blaring synth is just overpowering the beat like mad. And yeah, it just has this very strange pattern that doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. I think the beat has some semblance of an idea around this part here. You can hear there's that piano that comes in, and I feel like that piano paired with the bass line, there is an actual musical idea that comes in. And so maybe if the synth was like really reduced dramatically and not overpowering, I could see maybe a musical idea making sense there. But that small pocket didn't last very long, and everything else just felt like a random series of noises. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened with this beat. I have a track 2, not sure if it would fit the assignment, but it's another for your album. I'll probably have another freebie stream soon, not this one but the next one, so feel free to submit it then. Yeah, so yeah, with P-Dub's beat here, I feel as though I'm not exactly sure what happened with the beat in terms of the low end and like the kick, but getting that stuff to be present is always important. The drums are always important in any beat, and the drums here just felt as though they were missing on one hand or just overly weak. Just by context of what that synth was doing, it was by far the loudest sound, and it just wasn't really making sense in terms of what it was doing. So yeah, I feel as though an easy check is to always just compare what your beat is doing. Just have a beat in mind for like, you know, what's a beat that you want yours to sound somewhat close to, and then just do a 1-for-1 matching of like, well, how loud is that kick? How loud is mine? How loud is their snares? How loud is mine? How loud is their POI? How loud is mine? And just doing that one by one can help you make better decisions. Let's jump into Kev's beat here. He has sent it to me.
I face each lonely world without you. This lonely world. I face each lonely night without you. This lonely world. I face each lonely night without you. This lonely world. I face each lonely night without you. This lonely world. I face each lonely night without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. There's a Without you, this lonely world, I face each lonely night. Without you, this lonely world, I face each lonely night. Without you. As I wander through this lonely world, as I wander through this lonely world, as I wander through this lonely world.
I'm gonna give it a quick fade out here. We had a version of this with raps over it on Friday, says Sherb. This has some nice sample usage. I dig this, says Silver. Sent you a loop for this exercise on school. Oh, thank you. Black Friday may have some good sales. All right, so with this beat, I'm putting out a video tomorrow that sort of touches on this topic. So I think that video will sort of explain this a little bit better than what I can just with words. But I think the big thing that I feel this beat is missing is just an actual progression. So one of the things that a lot of producers mistakenly focus on when it comes to making their chops and thinking about their beat is that they'll only pay attention to the melodic components within their sample. So in this one, you know, those strings sound great. The vocals sound really cool as well. All those ideas really work, but fundamentally what you can hear in this beat is that the progression doesn't really go anywhere. It's the same note over and over again. I'm not sure if it's the bass line that is sort of causing me to feel this way. So maybe having a little bit more of a melodic idea, or sorry, having more of a change with the sounds in the lower end, and you can even control that with the bass line that you create, would have helped here, because it just feels as though it's the same thing over and over in terms of there's no progression that feels ever occurs. And maybe just using a different part of the sample can help, because you can hear.
If you stop giving your love to me, if you stop giving your love to me, oh, will you
This part has tons of like progression changes happening.
your love to me, oh, will you desperately.
So you get da 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 da. So that has a progression change, whereas when we listen to the verse, like we have 16 bars of like the same note playing over and over. So that's just something to pay attention to. I know a lot of producers, like I mentioned, whenever they're chopping on their samples, they're only paying attention to those melodic components. But my belief, and I talked about this breaking down the Alchemist beat like a month ago, which is that you'll notice that a lot of the producers that are, you know, very renowned for the sampling abilities, you'll notice that they'll often make their chops by looking at the progression changes within the sample and then placing their chops on that, and then putting together something that feels as though has some degree of change within it. So yeah, that was the one thing that I would advise going forward. And yeah, I'll go deeper into that in the YouTube video that comes out tomorrow. So hopefully seeing the actual example in real life will help everything make a little bit more sense. All right. Let's see what Victor's got for us. I can already feel my sinuses closing because I'm getting over yet another sickness. Very annoying. I'm sick yet again. Here we go. name. Yeah, so with his beat, another very Mob Deep-esque beat, very well put together for that type of style. Great job with the core of the loop. I really love the sample that was used here and the way that it was used. Just that really soft, that piano stab that plays there. And then you have these other elements that are details that come in and out. Really sound good. I will say I found it a little bit difficult to hear just because it feels as though maybe a bit too much of the high end was carved off. I do say oftentimes in my videos, when you want to replicate these kinds of old school beats, you do want to make sure you don't add too much high end into your beat, which is absolutely true. But again, it is a balance nonetheless. And so I think just adding a tiny bit more higher frequencies, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on the sample. It could be on the drums. It could just be on one particular sound, like adding some sort of SP 1200 sizzle onto the hi-hat, or maybe those small little details that you have coming in and out on the beat, just because it feels as though all of the elements are sitting a little bit closer towards a lower frequency pocket, which again is kind of what you want to do. But to the point where it was hard to distinguish what those small little details that you added into the beat were doing. And so because of that, and you have these really cool like background synths that come in and out, but it just feels hard to actually hear them. So yeah, I think that could be a great way to fill up space in the beat and getting that higher frequency pocket to feel full, but not do so in a way that feels as though it's like a bright modern beat. So just picking some element in here and adding a little bit more highs could have been nice. Overall though, I really love the way that everything was composed and put together. Very rappable beat as well, just like Gramo mentioned there. I love the simplicity as well. I think just tiny bit more high frequencies, and that would probably be it in terms of my advice. One thing. Or even that piano that's in the back. Yeah, like there's so many cool details in this beat, but I just wish they were a little bit more pronounced and I could actually hear them a little bit more, just with a little bit more color on them. I think that is my takeaway with that beat. All right, 3 more beats to go. And like I said, guys, I apologize for my delay in not updating the exercise. I'm going to do that right after this. So we'll listen to the remaining beats. We'll get to Quarantine's beat here. Corentin's beat there. A man who enjoys palm trees. Sherb says, dig the more up-tempo drums, but the main horn is a bit harsh, bright. Yeah, I'm picking up on that same feeling as well. I really like the drum loop here. Good drum work. I do feel as though the sample, I think the sample that was used here was probably just not conducive of actually turning into a beat. So Sherb says that I can't tell if there's a bass line or not. It feels very buried in the low, in the back low, too low, with a lot of low end stripped off. Yeah, there's something strange happening in the low end as well from my end. The sample here, it just has this really blaring horn, and the other remaining textures within the beat also feel like they were probably quite full. And so Corentin, from it sounds like at the very tail end here, just did a lot of EQing, a lot of manipulation and trying to like cut out frequencies and get them to sound usable. But I just think inherently, if you're having to do this much work on a sample, it's likely that it is just way too dense, way too thick, and it's just not sampleable. Again, this is something that I goofed up with very often, which is that, again, if I had a sample, I was like, well, this is a really cool sound, but maybe it was just a one small little sound within the beat, and it was, or within the sample, sorry, and the sample itself was like super huge, super thin. I would try my best to like EQ and stuff, but just it's so hard, and you just don't see a lot of producers do that because the results are often it just doesn't sound great. And I think that was exactly what happened here. Just fundamentally choosing a unsamplable sample, just something that has too much going on, and then signing up to fight an uphill battle. And just like Sherb mentioned as well, there's something very strange happening in the low end. So it sounds like a sub bass is being used, but the actual notes that are playing, it sounds like it's off. I don't know if they're playing the right notes. Yeah, I think it's just the wrong notes that are playing. All right, let's spin it up. T-Roy's up next. T-Roy the T-Rex. Here we go. see what the chat's saying. Sweet Steez is here. How's it going? I love the stereo space in the mix. Nice bounce and vibe. The drums could be mixed a little bit more aggressively. The kick feels lost. This is probably more modern sounding, fully fleshed out beats I've heard from T-Roy. The drums seem a bit too quiet, though the overall beat has good energy and vibe. The chime sounds at the right volume, but the drums are a bit too quiet. Yeah. Sherb says the drums and perks need a mixing overhaul. So my takeaway is that perhaps the reason why T-Roy felt as though he couldn't add drums into this beat in a balanced way is because the thing that jumped out to me is this beat is a very fast BPM. It's like 105 BPM. And so just on a quantity to quantity basis of just like how many drums are playing within this beat in like a 5-second window, it's a lot. And we have a lot of different sounds that come in and out, like you just heard. We had chimes, we have rides. We have this really dense pattern to begin with, even at 105 BPM. Even this was like a normal beat at like 90 BPM. This is a pretty dense drum pattern. Yeah, there's a lot of kicks. We've got that snare in the 2 and the 4. And so I would imagine that's part of the reason why T-Roy felt he had to like weaken the drums, because just at this fast pace and the quantity of drums that are used, it probably became overbearing to have the drums play at a normal loudness. And so with that in mind, I would either recommend dropping the BPM of the beat so it feels as though there's more, or I guess there's more time to work within. There's not going to be as many sounds playing on a second basis. Therefore, your beat won't sound overwhelmed or overloaded with a current pattern. Or if you want to keep it at a high BPM beat, reduce just how busy that pattern is and bring back the presence of the drums. I think those are probably the 2 main options I would recommend to get this beat to feel as though it is at a better balance. Really cool sample. Again, I really love it. Really cool way that it's flipped. I like some of the ideas in here, like when that respace comes in. But again, like at this high of a BPM, I cannot imagine a rapper being able to use this in rapping. Yeah, I think there's just a lot going on in this beat, and with it being at this high of a BPM, it's just a bit too much. So I think just taking things out or just slowing the beat down would probably solve that problem. Really cool core idea, though. I think there's definitely something to that sample. I really do like it. It's a great choice of a sample. I think just the structuring choices made around it probably undermined the idea to come from coming together. Another swing and miss with this beat. So I'll just say with this beat, first, be really careful with your drum selection. A very odd assortment of drums being used here in combination. We have this really booming, colorful snare, and then we have this absurdly short digital sounding hi-hat. Yeah, just this odd pairing of sounds here. We have this very transparent kick. I think just listening to how a lot of typical drum breaks sound, you'll notice that these types of hi-hats and like the choice of how to fill up space is very particular, and I think this beat could be fixed by just using a little bit more complementary drum sounds. Like just literally chopping up a drum break and using those as your core sounds can be an easy way of getting very sort of detailed, cohesive drums to work, as opposed to Frankensteining it and then having it really look and sound like Frankenstein, which is what we have with this beat here. In terms of the sample work, yeah, like this doesn't sound like a POI to me. It just sounds like a random sound mapped. Like it's just one sound that is extremely EQ'd and filtered out and just mapped across multiple different notes. And it's just playing the same notes over and over again. I've talked about this many times. I know a lot of newer producers feel as though that is the approach to take to get quality sampled beats, is to overload the amount of chops. Like it's just a very repetitive, predictable pattern. The only thing that I would say feels a little bit interesting and unique are these little sounds that come in during the hook. But yeah, just the main POI of the beat is just not there. And again, like I mentioned in the chorus, getting all your spaces filled is paramount in order to get your beat to sound balanced. And I would go as far as saying this beat with just these two sounds of the bass and that sound just aren't full enough. So yeah, just a lot more work needs to be done here. Sherb says, dig the vibe, but the drums felt too loud when it's minimal. So in the beginning, when the horns came in, I can see why the drums are so loud. Just, yeah, a very strange beat. T-Roy, we just finished reviewing your beat. Hopefully you're having a good day, though. Yeah, as you guys can hear, my nasal flowing is being blocked. So it is good that we have ended the stream at this point. I'm going to get you guys the next exercise. Apologize for being late on that once again. And yeah, we will reconvene next week with a brand new challenge, more beats. And I think we'll probably do another acapella challenge this time around and open it up, because I know for some people sampling is just a little bit difficult. And so we'll go back to opening things up and letting you guys choose how you want to make your beats. So yeah, with that in mind, I will talk to you guys next week. Hopefully you have a good rest of your week. Bye for now.